yourself, you can do anything. Want a promotion? Work hard, dress to impress. Want to ask a girl out? All it takes is a little confidence.
Excuse me, I couldn't help but notice that you were looking in my direction.
Oh, yes, I was. You just ordered the same exact lunch as me.
My name is George. I'm unemployed and I live with my parents.
I'm Victoria. Hi.
And with a little curiosity, journalists can uncover the news. In the 1970s, journalists discovered their secret to success was follow the money.
I have to do this my way. You tell me what you know, and I'll confirm. I'll keep you in the right direction if I can, but that's all. Just follow the money.
But since then, journalists have lost their sense of curiosity. Journalists just reported what they were told. Many times it was the CIA doing the telling. But Prime Time's noticed something. Curiosity's back in the briefing room.
Yes or no, was the president involved in the shakedown attempt?
Stephen,
Yes or no?
Stephen, I just answered the question. It's not up to you how I answer the question.
Was the president there or not?
I would refer you to my colleagues at the White House Counsel.
Have you spoken to the president about this? Have you asked him whether he was there with his son on July 30th?
This is not a conversation that I've had with the president.
You've stated that the president stands by his comment from the 2020 campaign that he never once discussed his son's overseas business dealings.
What I will say is nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. And I will leave it there. Anything else, I will refer you to the White House Counsel.
This is not a change.
I just answered the question.
Whoa! I don't remember the briefing room being this testy since Jim Acosta was there. And this isn't just our very own stupid son of a bitch, Peter Doocy, asking questions about the president demanding cash bribes from China. These are mainstream reporters. It got so intense, Kirby had to come and rescue Binder, and then he had to tap out. Watch.
I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows, and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction.
Let me save you some breath. If you're going to ask about this, I am not addressing. I know you do more than I'd like you to have. I am not going to address this issue from this podium. I'm just not going to do it.
All right.
I'm not going to do it.
Where was the president on the day of that
Thank you.
speech?
Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.
Look how effective the press can be when they operate like pack animals, all hungry for the same facts, all curious about the same thing. This hasn't happened since the Trump administration. And it's not just the White House press corps. All three broadcast networks, ABC, CBS, and NBC, devoted serious airtime to the Biden scandal.
The lead IRS agent investigating Hunter Biden telling Congress they uncovered evidence the president's son pressured a potential Chinese business partner to move ahead with the deal by invoking his father.
If true, this would seem to contradict comments from President Biden that he was not involved in his son's business deals.
Karine Jean-Pierre told me, I have not spoken to the president about that. I asked her, do you plan to? Can you get us that answer? And she said, Chuck, no, I don't plan to speak to him about this, and I don't plan to address this from the podium. Wow. And that's which in many ways creates more questions about this issue.
So why is this happening now, all of a sudden? Well, a week ago, Chuck Todd was still convinced the laptop was Russian disinformation. So what set the press off? Well, it was a combination of Hunter's plea deal and two explosive IRS whistleblowers. A text message, Hunter Biden threatening China while Joe Biden was in the room, saying they would face consequences if they didn't pay the Bidens millions of dollars. This is a stunning piece of hard evidence that even the most liberal reporter can't ignore. Plus, the fact that several eyewitnesses say that Biden's Justice Department obstructed the Hunter prosecution, even tipping Hunter off to search warrants and blocking felony charges and running out the clock on statute of limitations. So you're looking at blatant corruption at the highest level of the administration. But what Washington really can't stand is the appearance of corruption. They're all corrupt, but they go to great lengths to hide it. So when Joe Biden invites Hunter to a state dinner Thursday night, 48 hours after he pled guilty to tax evasion and gun charges, Washington said, whoa, Joe, you're making it hard to defend you. Tell Hunter to keep the tux in the closet. What are you doing having him rub elbows with Attorney General Merrick Garland in the middle of a plea deal scandal?
You think it was appropriate for Hunter Biden to be at the same event as the Attorney General Merrick Garland was in the same week he accepted a plea deal?
You know, I think as the president explains, that's his son.
You understand the perception issue of something like that, though?
I do.
And do you wish that perception were different?
You always wish there were different perceptions, but that's not reality.
We know we're making progress when the media is covering the perception of a scandal. We're almost there. Now, how do I know Joe Biden's an intelligence op? Well, because he lets Hunter throw a wedding at the White House while under federal investigation and then brings him to a state dinner after he blocks felony charges. The only way you do that is because you know you can get away with doing that. And fresh off the state dinner, Joe takes Hunter to Camp David with him for the weekend. Now, it was at Camp David this weekend that Joe Biden held an important phone call with Zelensky of Ukraine. Was Hunter in the same room for the phone call? Joe and Hunter shook down the previous Ukrainian president, and now with billions going out the door, is Hunter in the room for that phone call too? You cannot defend that. The Biden scandal is no longer just a Biden scandal. It's becoming a Democrat scandal. The Democrats are having to answer for this.
If the president says he never talked business with his son, why are there these texts showing Hunter mentioning he's sitting next to his dad while threatening a Chinese businessman?
The time has come for extreme MAGA Republicans to stop peddling conspiracy theories and start working on issues of the economy that are important to the American people.
When you see the evidence, none of this sounds fishy to you? None of this sounds fishy at all to you?
Same answer.
If the president says he never talked about business...
Victoria have work to do to save women from a very destructive Republican Party in this House. You should be worried about that.
Does any of this bother you, Speaker Pelosi?
What bothers me are the Republicans standing in the way of your reproductive freedom.
So for the first time, the Democrats have a problem they can't blame on Russia. They can't blame it on COVID or racism, for that matter, either. And the act of covering it up now becomes criminal. Speaker Kevin McCarthy today announced the House will move to impeach Joe Biden's attorney general.
By July 6th, because of the allegations from the IRS, because of the whistleblowers and the DOJ, Garland, what he is saying and what David Weiss are saying privately are two different things.
Right.
And if it comes true what the IRS whistleblower is saying, we're going to start impeachment inquiries on the attorney general.
So Fox News caught Joe Biden coming out of an event today. Watch this. Biden's word worthless here. Hunter Biden gave his dad a burner phone when he was vice president and paid for the bills.
What is the line of communications between Hunter Biden and his business partners and Joe Biden when he's vice president of the United States? It's not the government phone. It's not Joe Biden's personal phone. We know from the laptop that Hunter Biden's business paid for a private phone line that Joe Biden used while he was vice president. It was from AT&T. It was $300 a month.
Whoa. Hunter was using Ukrainian bribes to pay for his dad's burner phone when he was vice president. What? Well, what else did Hunter pay for? We already know that Hunter's on record complaining about half his salary going to the big guy. So will House Oversight issue subpoenas for Hunter's credit cards and Hunter's phone records? If AT&T gives you Biden's burner phone records when he was vice president, that should tell us something. And if Hunter was putting his dad's lifestyle on his shell company's credit cards, then you should be able to draw a line from China to Hunter to Joe Biden. And that's your smoking gun. And the whistleblowers aren't done. One Delaware beer baron says he went to prison for 2 years for illegal donations to Joe Biden. The Bidens came asking him for $100,000 in donations, and to skirt the legal limit, the Bidens suggested he had all of his employees donate, straw donors. Well, he got caught. Joe told him tough luck. And then when he offered the feds to wear a wire, they said no. Big guy's off limits. Turn it over to Congressman Jim Jordan, chairman of the Judiciary Committee. So, Congressman, are we going to get any of these burner phone records, any of these credit card records from these shell companies? Because that could lead us somewhere.
Yeah, I think that'll probably, Jesse, primarily out of Chairman Comer's committee, the Oversight Committee. He's been focused on the business records associated with the Biden, business enterprise. We want to talk to David Weiss. Chris is right, your previous guest. We want to talk to David Weiss, the U.S. attorney. We want to talk to Leslie Wolf. She's the one who stopped a search warrant. She's the one who said you can't ask questions during the investigation. To Mr. Shapley said you can't ask questions about Joe Biden. You can't even bring up the term the big guy. I mean, stop and think about this for a second. So Joe Biden said he wasn't involved in his son's business dealings. That sure looks like it wasn't accurate. And Merrick Garland said he took a hands-off approach to the investigation. That sure looks like it wasn't accurate as well. So those are the questions we have to ask. The first one will be done, I think, in Chairman Comer's committee. He is focused on that the entire 6 months we've been in Congress. We will continue to focus on the Justice Department. So we want to talk to David Weiss. We want to talk to Mr. Estrada. We want to talk to Leslie Wolf. We want to talk to all these U.S. attorneys and say, why did you do it this way? I mean, this is a credible whistleblower, 14 years experience, handled some of the biggest international tax cases in that time frame, handled some of the biggest ones that the IRS has dealt with. We think he's credible. He's raised important issues. We want to get the answers, and the way you do that is to talk to these attorneys who handled this case.
All right, well, we'll be looking forward to that. In a regular police department, if someone tips off a target to a search warrant, that person's out of the force. I mean, you can't get away with that.
Yeah.
All right, Congressman.
That's what Leslie Wolf and the FBI did. You're exactly right.
All right, hopefully there's some consequences there. Thank you.
This could well be the biggest corruption scandal in modern American history, but according to the ladies of The View, it's a little more than a heartfelt story. This is about a father's love for his son, who's addicted to crack and hookers. Take a look.
The Hunter Biden story, the scandal, the this, the that, it's also the story of a father's love. And Joe Biden has never and will never give up on his son Hunter, and will never treat him lesser than. And so he is a father first. Take it or leave it. That's who he is. That is part of his heart.
Now, too bad Joe doesn't exhibit the same love for his 4-year-old granddaughter, you know, the one that he won't even acknowledge. Meanwhile, fake news CNN has exclusively apparently obtained another audio recording used as evidence in Trump's document case. It's kind of weird because there are virtually no leaks from Biden's document investigation, if there even really is one. It's almost as if we have a two-tiered system of justice, isn't it? Well, kind of shocking. Anyway, here with reaction, Fox News contributor Miranda Devine and former senior advisor to President Trump, Stephen Miller. Stephen, I'll start with you in the leak of the tape, just like the leak of every other detail to the media, seemingly from the special counsel, but only Trump's special counsel. We haven't heard a peep out of the so-called special counsel looking at the Bidens.
We've seen this for 7 long years, Sean, where the federal government, when it is persecuting, when it is going after, when it is trying to frame President Trump, they selectively leak in order to manipulate news stories, to try to poison the narrative, to try to create a false impression. And they've been doing this over and over and over and over again. Because the security state is very skilled at psychological warfare. They're skilled at the art and artistry that's often deployed in foreign countries of how to control the narrative in our country. My message to the American people is, don't fall for it. We have been watching them try to play us year after year after year, going all the way back to the Russia hoax. Then, of course, remember the Ukraine hoax. Remember in the election year, remember the Russian bounty story, where Trump was letting Russia get away with putting bounties on our troops. Then it comes out later, that was a fake story. And, of course, we remember what they did to suppress the Hunter Biden story, and now what they are doing and have been doing to shield Joe Biden from accountability for his influence peddling with his son Hunter.
All right, let's get your take, Miranda Devine. I tried to lay out here, maybe I don't think I'm overstating the case, that our government is corrupt, that our DOJ is corrupt, it's weaponized, that our FBI at the top especially, I'm not talking about rank and file. I think a lot of them, are good people trying to do a good job, and unfortunately they don't have the leadership that they frankly deserve to restore that agency to what it once was, the premier law enforcement agency in the world. Your reaction to all this?
You're spot on, and I think we've seen the corruption of the DOJ and the top echelons of the FBI laid out in stark detail on Friday in the testimony of the 2 IRS whistleblowers who are very courageous to have come forward. And I hope that every American has their back, because they are in for a world of pain as the very expensive lawyers of Hunter Biden come after them in every single way they can, and as they are being retaliated against right now by the federal government, to which they gave more than a dozen years each of their lives. These are courageous and diligent public servants, and what they have done is they have broken ranks and been had integrity like nobody else has, it seems, in that investigation that went for 5 years into Hunter Biden in Delaware. And they have told chapter and verse about how they were obstructed and slow-walked every step of the way. And someone is lying, because Attorney General Merrick Garland has said flat out that US Attorney David Weiss did not ask to be made a special counsel. And David Weiss told 6 witnesses, according to Gary Shapley, the IRS whistleblower, that he asked the DOJ if he could be made special counsel so he could override the Biden-appointed US attorneys in D.C. and the Central District of California, who refused to allow them to bring charges against Hunter Biden in their jurisdictions. So someone is lying, and I believe that the Republicans in the House will be hauling those people in to testify under oath.
Yeah. All right. Let me go back to you, Stephen Miller, because this is now impacting the 2024 election, and in a lot of different ways. I mean, so you got the DOJ protected Hillary in 2016. Donald Trump was able to win, but clearly they were working against him, and they were even willing to use an uncorroborated, frankly, unverifiable, or in the words of Durham, they couldn't even prove a single thing in that dossier. Nothing. And Operation Crossfire Hurricane never should have opened up. Then pre-bunking the New York Post story about Hunter's laptop, the very real laptop from hell that Miranda probably knows inside and out better than anyone in the country. And now, you know, now we've got one prosecution after another, in one venue after another that's not favorable to Donald Trump. Are they trying to do the same thing and put cinder blocks on the scales of presidential elections, the deep state in favor of Joe Biden again?
Absolutely, and that's exactly what they are doing, putting cinder blocks on the scales of this election, as they have now in 2 previous election cycles. First by shielding Hillary Clinton and her pay-for-play scheme, then by shielding Joe Biden and Hunter Biden over their influence peddling scheme, and now by trying to throw Donald Trump into prison in the middle of the presidential campaign. How much more of this do we have to witness before we can all arrive at the obvious conclusion that the Department of Justice and the security state are working against our democracy and against the American people? If you compare the treatment Donald Trump has gotten, one false allegation after another, one investigation after another, his life torn upside down and torn apart. And you compare that to what we have seen from these IRS whistleblowers, as Miranda said, these courageous whistleblowers, and how the DOJ has bent over backwards to shield Joe Biden. When you compare those 2 things, you can arrive at no other conclusion but that you are right, Sean, and that the Department of Justice is corrupt.
Right,
it is deeply concerning and disheartening to witness instances where individuals, especially those closely associated with prominent figures, exploit their connections for personal gain. The case of a president's son using his father's name for a bribery scheme is a stark example of corruption and the abuse of power. It is a fundamental principle of justice and fairness that no one should be above the law, regardless of their family name or position. The actions of the president's son not only reflect poorly on his own character, but also raise questions about the ethical standards and integrity of the entire family. This type of behavior undermines public trust in our political institutions and reinforces the perception that those in power are more interested in personal enrichment than serving the interests of the American people. Moreover, such actions have far-reaching consequences for our democracy. When individuals exploit their family connections for personal gain, it creates an environment of favoritism where the powerful and influential can manipulate the system to their advantage. This erodes the belief that hard work and merit are the keys to success, fostering a sense of disillusionment and frustration among hardworking citizens who strive for a fair and equal society. As conservatives, we value individual liberty, limited government intervention, and the rule of law. We expect our leaders and their families to uphold these values and act as role models for the nation. The abuse of power and the use of a family name for personal gain not only betray conservative principles but also undermine the very foundations of our democratic society. It is crucial that such incidents are thoroughly investigated, and if found guilty, those responsible should face appropriate legal consequences. Upholding the rule of law and holding individuals accountable, regardless of their familial connections, is vital to preserving the integrity and trust in our political system. In conclusion, the use of a president's name for a bribery scheme by his own son is a deeply troubling situation. It highlights the need for a strong commitment to ethical standards and the rule of law, ensuring that no one is above accountability. As conservatives, we must remain vigilant and demand integrity from our leaders and their families to uphold the principles on which our great nation was founded. Thanks for watching. Until next time.